This is your wake-up call.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Minister, in your opening remarks, you spoke about your so-called robust measures. We've heard from numerous witnesses that have appeared before this committee talk about numerous incidents and numerous ridings where information was sent into the robust measures processes that you put in place. Have those robust measures ever triggered a public notice in any of the election, in any of the campaigns, in any of the ridings in the last two elections?
Madam Chair, I'm confident that the nonpartisan public
Madam
servants
Chair,
who exercise their discretion under this protocol have done so in a way that has protected the interests of our elections. And I would also point out that the elections in 2019 and 2021 have been certified
I have a short amount of
as
time,
free
Minister.
and fair.
It was kind of a yes or no question. I'll just take that as a no. Have your robust measures ever resulted in any diplomats being expelled? We've had actually records of diplomats from Beijing actually publicly taking credit for changing the outcomes of the elections in at least two ridings. Have any diplomats under your so-called robust measures been expelled? Yes or no? We all know the answer. You can just say it, Minister.
Madam Chair, I've explained the many concrete actions that we have taken against threats posed by foreign interference, and will continue to be vigilant on that front.
Minister, under your so-called robust measures, have any charges been laid against anybody for foreign interference? We know that our Five Eyes allies, who used to actually involve us in security arrangements that are now passing us by, have done so where charges have been laid in places like the United States and Australia and other places. Have your robust measures resulted in any charges being laid? Yes or no?
Madam Chair, I'm confident that the discretion that is exercised independently, operationally, by law enforcement will safeguard all of our democratic institutions and our communities.
Well, it seems to me, Minister, that your robust measures on election integrity seem to be about as robust as your measures on bail reform. So I'll get off that tack, and we'll move over to your comment on Eyes Wide Open. On the Globe and Mail reported on February 17th, based on their review of a CSIS document from December 20th, 2021, that political campaigns quietly and illegally returned the difference between the original donation and the government's refund back to the donors. So under the direction of Beijing, donations were being made to political campaigns, and then those campaigns were illegally returning the money back to those donors to make them whole after they got their tax receipt. That's collusion. Would you like to change your Eyes Wide Open comment to maybe Eyes Wide Shut under your robust measures?
Madam Chair, as I've indicated, the government has taken unprecedented steps in the creation of new authorities, including protocols that are there to protect the integrity of our elections. And we've had two reports that have certified that the elections in 2019 and 2021 were both free and fair. And we will continue to build on that record, receiving recommendations from Mr. Johnston, working with parliamentarians at INSICOP, using NSIRA as a way to shine a light on the way that we are doing this work together.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, do you remember 2 parliaments ago, there was a bill, C-406, which would have banned foreign money coming into our electoral process. Do you remember how you voted on that bill, Mr. Minister?
Madam Chair, what I can tell you is I recall my votes on C-76, C-59. I voted in favor of them in conjunction with the government. The Conservatives voted against those 2 bills.
As a matter of fact, that was my private member's bill banning foreign money coming into our electoral process, and you, Minister, voted against it. Your colleague, Mr. Gerritsen, did, and the entire NDP caucus did as well. So it's interesting how how we seem to want to say one-sided things and create a narrative that simply isn't true, even somebody who is supposedly a competent minister of the Crown. But I'll move on to a different question. We know that...
order. Pause. Yes. Mr. Gerritsen, point of order.
I know that Mr. Calkins thinks he's extremely witty with his comments, but perhaps challenging somebody's integrity and their ability in this forum is not only in contravention of our standing orders in the House, which would apply to this place, but also is extremely unprofessional and extremely rude to any witness, whoever that witness may be. So perhaps, Madam Chair, through you, Mr. Calkins, who, by the way, has been in the public calling members of Parliament's agents of Beijing, would like to, if he's not at least going to apologize for that comment, apologize for questioning the integrity of the ministers sitting at this table right now.
I appreciate that. I will come to you, Mr. Calkins. I have been really persistent as to how I would like our committee to function. At the end of the day, when it comes to our democratic institutions, as much as people might take this lighthearted or think it's a, I don't even know what, this is a really serious topic. And I know my constituents are very concerned with it. And so at the end of the day, we all say one thing, and then our comments and actions demonstrate another. And I honestly don't think there's any place for that, Mr. Calkins. So I'll give you the floor, yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will respectfully withdraw the comment
I would hope so.
in the way it was taken. Most of our legislation does refer to a competent minister shall in that legislation, and but I will withdraw if the offence was taken. I certainly will do that. So, Mr. Minister, we know that security cleared Liberal staff were briefed on September 28th, 2019, that the 2019 candidate for Don Valley North was part of a foreign interference network. Jeremy Broadhurst, who was just here earlier, determined that the contents of the briefing to be so serious that he personally alerted the Prime Minister the next day. So the Prime Minister knew about Beijing's interference benefiting Liberal politicians since as early as the time of the 2019 election. We also know that the February 21st, 2020 PCO document alerted the Prime Minister that the political staff and politicians take broad guidance from Beijing's Toronto consulate, and we know that the Prime Minister and the ministers received ceaseless briefings that some political candidates are witting affiliates of Beijing's interference schemes. So my question to you, Minister, is have you investigated which members of your caucus or which Liberal candidates in the past two elections may have knowingly cooperated with Beijing's election interference schemes?
Madam Chair, let me say a couple of things. First, in response to the specific question, we take foreign interference very seriously. I believe all parliamentarians do. And in the last hour, I think we've explained what our record is and what we are going to continue doing. Lastly, with regards to the comment that was made, I personally wasn't offended by it. I think it's a reality of being in politics today that we need thick skins, but I think Canadians would be offended by that remark. And it perhaps explains why it is that we need to do this work together to protect our institutions. That kind of personal attack is becoming far too often a thing, a hallmark of the way that we have these debates. I'm glad that Mr. Calkins apologized, but I came here to offer what I thought was important testimony on a very serious issue. I've tried to be responsive, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.